This is a little disclaimer, but this video is just intended to be a casual discussion of the topics in Bridgerton. We tried our best to discuss all of the topics in Bridgerton in a careful manner. Please be respectful with your critiques or opinions in the comments below. Hello, dear gentle viewer. After a few technical difficulties, we have finally arrived to discuss Bridgerton. And as I mentioned, it's a we discussing Bridgerton, not just I. I have been joined by the lovely Meghana to discuss the hottest topics of the season. Meghana, take it away.
Hi guys, I'm Meghana. I'm Sunshine's oldest friend, I think. We've known each other our entire lives. And I'm also a fellow Bridgerton lover. So Sunshine graciously invited me onto her channel so I too can yap at a camera for 40 minutes.
Yes. What should we start off
Oh my God. There's too much. There's so much. I don't know. It's your channel. You choose.
with? Okay. Well, I guess the main point of season three of Bridgerton, aside from the Pollen fans finally getting their ship to sail, was the idea of women and women's agency,
Mhm.
especially in regards to Whistledown and what she represents.
Oh my gosh. Yes, definitely. I think Whistledown is a symbol of what women weren't allowed to do at the time, especially showing their own opinions rather than what society wanted out of them. And I think the show does an amazing job of not only applying that to Penelope and her own agency, but to other women in the ton as well. Um, I think especially like Cressida and Eloise as well.
I was also gonna say, I was thinking about it last night, and if you think about it, the women of the Ton are much more restricted than, let's say, Genevieve, the dress shop girly. Because she's literally able to make a living and have this financial independence. She's not bound to these strict conventions of the season. She's at least not constrained by social customs in the same way as Penelope and the other women of the Ton.
Yeah, definitely. That's something you see a lot. I think it is like I don't know if it's necessarily historically accurate, but there are a lot of restrictions when it comes to like upper society and a lot of social climbing, right? Which you see a lot with Cressida and her character constantly like wanting a husband.
Speaking of Cressida, we didn't mention this when filming, but the idea of women's agency can take many forms. For Penelope, women's agency was shown as breaking the expectations everyone set on her through her work as Lady Whistledown. As controversial as Lady Whistledown is/was, her existence allowed Penelope to have some control/expression in her life, helping her find her voice/power and claim it. For Cressida, women's agency was shown as finding loopholes within the pieces at play in society, like taking credit for Lady Whistledown so she could escape an awful marriage and an awful household. Also, ideas of reputation and propriety have been ingrained extra hard in Cressida's worldview, so it makes sense that Cressida tackles the idea of women's agency in a different manner, but that manner is just as impactful and just as important to highlight. After all, women's agency is about women claiming the freedoms that they deserve and expressing themselves on their terms.
Or like needing a husband because that would mean her place in society is secured, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is really interesting how like in specifically this upper echelon of society, you would think more money, theoretically more power, more freedom, but that's not necessarily the case when it comes to women.
That reminds me of something I read about in this one fantasy book the other day. This one goddess was talking about how powerful choice is, and I think that's so evident here. It's so evident. Like, money couldn't even buy, I guess, the freedom of choice.
This is true. This is very true. Yeah, like the ability to write your own narrative in especially the society, um and again, like choose your own path. You can't do that. It's kind of all laid out for you by those older to you, like especially like with again Cressida and her mom. You see her mom making a lot of the decisions when it comes to Cressida's future, especially like even when later in the season, like they're trying to figure out what to do now that Cressida's outed herself as Whistledown, right? It's her mom who takes the lead, and it is kind of like a metaphor for just how society worked at that time, I think.
I did find that funny. Like when I was taking notes on the second half of the season, I had to comment, "You made your mom do your homework?"
Okay, first of all, I was fully convinced Cressida just like magically like got like brain cells and like wrote it. Like she automatically became Shakespeare. But seeing her mom like pull down the ink, I was like, that's so funny. Also, wash your hands.
Both her and Penelope. I'm like, guys.
Like, please a handkerchief. When? Invest. With all that whistle down money, she should get a like some cloth to wipe her hands, right? You would think.
Yeah. Whistledown is also definitely a symbol of like that financial freedom and financial independence because Penelope is balling when it
Oh
comes
my
to
god.
finances.
Yes. Oh my god, the that scene was again like it was such like a girl boss move to just be like, I've made more than what Cressida wants me to pay her. Like, okay, Penelope. Okay.
Not tucking the hair behind the ear.
No, but that's literally what she did. Like, I feel like she should have done that. If she was in modern times saying that statement, she would have tucked her hair back for sure.
The fact that Penelope could pay off Cressida's like bribe might have contributed to Colin's like insecurity because
Hmm.
that man was so insecure about Penelope being whistled down.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Like his whole like his quips about like when he's like, I'm writing a book, but you're out here like doing all of this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It really shows what expectation versus like reality was. Expectations versus reality. Um for Colin and like women and like what men expect of women in general. And that's also like really interesting because it's then like the choice that Penelope was presented with for majority of this half of the season, which was decide between expressing yourself as Whistledown or Colin and fulfilling Colin's needs for a wife traditionally, you know?
Yeah. I will say it was super interesting for a second when Eloise was the one trying to get Penelope to put down her pen.
That's so true. And yeah, it's not something you would really expect from Eloise, I think. I feel like Loki, it was like, I get why. Because it is like, there's this whole conflict, I think, internally with trying to be this, like, in lack of better words, woke individual of the time where she's so socially aware of everything that's going on and all women's rights and whatnot. But then at the same time, she's experiencing this comfort. She wants to protect her family. And her family is the upper class that is, controlling all of this, all these rules of society, So I think it's interesting to see her conflict in that. But I didn't like the fact that she was forcing Penelope, or like trying to get Penelope to do it. Cause like for me, it doesn't really fit her character. But I get why, like for the storyline, it needed to happen, you know?
I would argue that the whole reason she was like, I guess, suppressing her personality, trying to, I guess, compartmentalize these values that she's held for so long, I think it was a survival measure after being like scrutinized not only by Lady Whistledown, but by like the whole ton.
Yeah,
It
very
could be
true.
considered like a safety measure, like, oh my gosh, I
Yeah,
can't.
definitely. I get that. Especially I understand definitely being on the defensive, especially with how damaging what Whistledown wrote to her was in season 2. Like I can definitely understand being on the defensive. So like yeah, that's actually a really good point. Like that would make sense for like a defensive version of Eloise, but that's not my favorite version of Eloise. So
And
I'm
thankfully, we got our girl back at the end of the season. She stopped acting like.
no, literally the entire season, like even season 2, I was like, if you guys just communicated, we would all be okay.
And they did communicate, like in
I
the middle of the second part of season 3.
finally, actually, oh my god, yeah. Like I feel like the last half of part 2 was like so good. Like every plot line that needed to be closed and like concluded, like it happened, for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of like how conclusive it was, usually Bridgerton leaves us on like a solid cliffhanger, and the only cliffhanger I can think of is the situation with like Michaela, John Sterling,
Mm-hmm.
and Francesca. But in regards to like Pollen and like, all that, it felt way too calm. I was suspicious. And also, they
No,
just
I
had a
get
baby
that.
out of nowhere. I was like,
Wait, who? What? Repeat.
Pollen had a baby, and like the
No, because
baby was there at the
in the
same.
in the book, it's that first time that they canoodle before they
Mhm.
get married. She's already pregnant. So like that's yeah, that's like the thing was like she gets pregnant the first time. So
Dang.
like the whole entrapment thing is like that kind of plot line that runs through with like Portia accusing her of entrapping Colin and then Colin accusing Penelope of entrapping him. It's like in a sense, if things went differently, she would have technically entrapped him per se
Yeah.
because she was pregnant. Yeah. Oh my god, wait, speaking of the babies though, when forgot the sister's name. The one who yells, Varley the bugs.
Oh, the one who says the line in the well-known meme from season 3.
Yes. Yes, yes,
I don't
yes.
want to repeat the
Put it
meme.
in where? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yes, that one.
Okay. Oh yeah, family friendly. Like I'm on a famous person's YouTube channel. I love
I'm
you.
not famous.
You're famous to me. You're the most famous person I ever know. I've ever
No,
known. When
Megan
people
is
ask me
also.
if I know celebrities, I say, Sunshine Times. Yeah.
No. Like and subscribe if you like.
Like and subscribe so I can say that Sunshine is the most famous person I know.
Sorry. I I feel like I've been so speechless so far. I'm just I don't know. I'm very like when we were somewhat planning out this video, Megan, I can tell you, I was like trying to plan out every single
Oh my
moment.
god. Yes. Yes, definitely. I feel like I'm telling you, we should have filmed that FaceTime call. I feel like we got all of the ideas out and then now we can't talk about it.
It's okay. It's okay.
You know what? Let's lighten up the mood a little bit and talk about Canthony. I love Canthony. Canthony is my everything. And I will never shut up about them.
And this season, like, you can truly see how Anthony has like healed. Not just because of Kate, just I think in general, having a lot of that guilt that he held last season
Mm-hmm.
finally resolved or somewhat addressed. I think that definitely allowed him to show more of his like happy, loving side.
Yeah, I think it's like it's really nice because I feel like in a lot of shows you don't especially like this where it goes to like different like main characters every season. You don't really see the product of the growth that the last main people went through in the previous seasons. But I that's something really nice about like Bridgerton is like you still get to see bits and pieces. Obviously not in season 2, we didn't really get a whole lot of Daphne and Simon. Um, for obvious reasons. But
Yeah.
with Anthony, it's really nice to see that Anthony's not like this toxically masculine, drowning in responsibilities dude anymore. In fact,
I was gonna say that's like somewhat Colin. This
I think he's a little toxically masculine. I don't know if he's drowning in responsibilities, but I definitely think he's trying to like. I think he's lost. Like a whole, he goes through this whole journey, especially after Marina, of like finding himself. Literally traveling all over, kind of like it is. I think it's very much another like kind of introspective search that Anthony goes through, but I don't know if it's necessarily the same reason. You know what I mean?
true. Also, before we end discussing Canthony, I must mention I need more hype put on the fact that he was just like, let's go to India. We can have the baby there. I want this child to know that they're not just a Bridgerton but a short.
That line, yo, that his little speech about going to India went low key a little harder than like any of Colin's Colin's monologues. And maybe it's because we're brown and it just hits different because of that. But I'm like, oh, Anthony, I can't believe Jonathan Bailey is a gay man and still able to make so many women swoon. Like that's some crazy power. Like him and Simone actually have crazy chemistry, and it really shows. I think even more so than last season and this season,
Yeah.
because this season they spend a lot less time hating each other.
That definitely has to do with it. I do wish that Colin didn't just like freaking make out with Penelope and then be like, oh my gosh, whoa, whoa.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
where was the build up?
It went so quickly, and I personally was real. I'm always like very attached to Penelope. Like I see a lot of her, like a lot of her, or a lot of me in her. Especially like the whole like not feeling very people don't feel very attracted to me, like yada yada, like very wallflower vibes. So I was like waiting for like the good romance, the pining. And I guess it does happen, but like after they already get married, I was waiting for some good pining from Colin when he realizes like, oh, I treated her wrong. Oh my god, I have feelings for her. How do I make this up to her? Like I would have liked it more if part one was a lot more of that. So then part two, I feel like we would have already had like a really solid basis for the more heavy whistle down plot line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There wasn't enough romance and a lot more conflict resolution,
Mm.
you know?
I feel like we'll get a lot of romance next season.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you know if it's gonna be Benedict or Francesca next season? Because
I
I've
feel
heard
like
mixed opinions.
from what I recall from discussions online, Francesca's book kind of takes place in the middle of some of the other Bridgerton books. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like happening in the background. That's why they
Yeah.
had to introduce Francesca's plotline this season.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, I think it'll be both Benedict and Francesca, which I am here for. I'm here for.
A double a a double couple season would be kind of crazy. I do know because do you know the theory with the Pall Mall game in season two,
Oh,
where it was like Colin hit his ball into season three and like into the third thing. And so he got
whoa,
season three. So then it's Benedict's because he in fourth because he hit it the fourth time in the fourth thing, you know?
whoa.
So I saw a TikTok about that last night and I was like, whoa, whoa. I wouldn't be opposed to a Soul Benedict season two, but I feel like they set it up for it to be focusing on Francesca at least a little bit.
Yeah.
But then also Francesca's going to be gone, because she's going to Scotland, right? So I'm like, it's not gonna, if they focus on Francesca next season, I wouldn't see how that will be possible considering she's not gonna be in Mayfair, like in the ton.
I think they'll just have to film in a different place.
Yeah, but then like I'll like all the Lady Whistle Down Queen stuff and all of the other subplots would not make as much sense because they wouldn't be happening in the same area. Does that make sense? I feel like the only time they kind of took like the Bridgerton siblings out of the ton for their season was last season because they bring Kate and Edwina to their house in the country, right?
Mm.
And so I mean, and but like that makes sense because I think there a lot of the plot lines that were supposed to be happening at that time were not necessarily outside of the Bridgerton household, and that also only lasted for like an episode or two. Like that wasn't like a long part or substantial part of the season.
I feel like the way they'll try to like connect it back to Mayfair. Yeah.
Mhm.
This is me not knowing things is really, really decreasing my credibility here. But guys,
No,
guys,
I literally learned that I don't even know if the ton's actually called Mayfair, if that's just the estate of the Bridgertons. I just heard that in a TikTok somewhere.
I
I
think
just I
Mayfair
have no credibility.
I think Mayfair is like referring to the part of London
I
where,
think so. I think so.
yeah.
Almost definitely London. Don't sue me.
Don't sue us. Don't sue us.
Please, I don't have enough money to go through legal proceedings. Everyone yapped before we got to yap. Do you want to go into conformity and sexuality? I haven't seen a lot talk about like Benedict's journey.
Hmm.
Want to talk about that?
I wrote something down regarding Benedict. Okay, here. Let me read word for word what I wanted to say because I don't want to mess up. The ritualistic nature of the season could be argued as a metaphor for how heteronormativity, marriage, and family life are conventions people are automatically bound to once they are of age to truly interact with greater society. Since the ton is associated with prestige and pride and whatever, these socially constructed conventions represent the supposed ideal life people should want to live by, when really there's more than one valid way to experience life. And I think Benedict, like, interacting with Tilly, having these expansive experiences, to say the least, kind of shows how yes, these conventions may be automatically like assigned to you, but you have a choice. You don't have to necessarily live within those constraints because they're just socially constructed. I guess these quote unquote non-conventional lives are just as valid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like definitely, I think definitely because something that Bridgerton has kept consistent all three seasons is Benedict's issue with finding his own place in society. And as the second son, he knows he's supposed to have some responsibility, but not the responsibility of Anthony. But he doesn't necessarily have the freedom to travel the world and find himself like Colin.
Yeah.
And also just dealing with how he wants to pursue these things beyond the ton and like with art, but then he realizes he's not that great and Anthony's influence kind of gets him into that school. I think Benedict's a great artist though.
Yeah.
And then like and you see that in the conversation with Tilly and forgive me, I don't remember the name of
Paul?
the other Paul. You're right, Paul. With his conversation with Tilly and Paul when they're asking him like how do you stand being such an active member of society, right? And he goes like, well, I like nice parties, you know. But like I think it's kind of a thing where he knows he belongs, but at the same time he doesn't, and he enjoys aspects, and he doesn't like others, but he knows he can't really pick and choose in the way he wants to.
Maybe this next season will show that like it's not like conventional versus unconventional. You are still capable of carving your own path.
Yeah, definitely. And I know I don't have an extensive knowledge of the books. I haven't actually read them, but But I know Benedict's like love story is with a maid. Like his love interest is a maid. And that's again like him reaching out of society because she's not part of upper society, you know? And I think this is like a big like a long-term establishment of how he's trying to balance being part of society, being part of his family, by the same time reaching out and not necessarily fitting all of the rules that society places on people.
We should discuss the music.
I'll never shut up about how amazing the music choices were for the season, especially this part of the season, because there was one song that I feel like they should not have included. You're telling me it's the crazy buildup of like all of this tension between I was about to say Colin and Penelope. Okay, this is the apex of their attraction to each other. You know, before they move on with their courting. You know, it's their realization, and they choose "Give Me Everything" by Pitbull.
Look. Me and one of my other besties, Cloudy, me and that other bestie came up with a code name. That's why I'm saying Cloudy. We have a strong attachment to Pitbull, so I think it was fun.
Listen, I love Pitbull as much as the next girl. Okay, any material possession he can have. Like my little quote box, he can have this if he so chose, you know? However, Give Me Everything by Pitbull, hot take, I did not, I think it took attention away from the fact that the carriage scene was happening because everyone was in shock that it was Give Me Everything by Pitbull.
I will say it's very interesting. Like that sound definitely characterized part of the season for me. Because I was listening to my mom listen to some unrelated reel, and I hear the like the the crescendos. I think that's the word. Like the very sharp notes. Sharp not in the music sense, just
No, yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
like they're very defined. And I just heard those notes from the Give Me Everything instrumental floating upstairs, and I was so confused. Needless to say, it was iconic.
I think my issue was with it was maybe it's because I'm just a big I'm a huge like music in shows being symbolism person.
Mm.
And for me, like I think it's a great song. I would have loved to. I'm so happy that it got included in Bridgerton. I would have loved to see it at a different moment. You know,
Mm.
something more casual, more like you know.
Maybe for Benedict.
Oh my God, Benedict gives Pitbull. Like I feel like Benedict deserves a Pitbull song. Yes, like during his expanding the boundaries of society moment, this song should have played. You know, I can get that, but I just for me maybe it was just like it was so recognizable like because like I feel like with all of the other songs that they use it just blends so well with the scene that you don't really notice that you're like oh my god that's the song that they're playing until like a little bit later, at least that's how it goes for me. But with Give Me Everything by Pitbull, the moment it was happening I was so distracted because I was like oh my god it's Pitbull, but maybe that just shows how much of a big Pitbull fan I am.
I will say another fun choice they used POV by Ariana Grande during the second canoodling scene between
Yeah.
Ken and Colin. And
Yeah,
I didn't realize it.
on the sofa
Yeah,
chaise lounge
on
thing,
the
right?
chaise.
Okay. Okay.
Chaise. Sorry.
Okay. I took Latin, guys. I can't do the French.
It's the Frenchie in me. That's a
I
joke, guys. For legal purposes. I'm 95% sure this child's 100% South Indian, so
yeah. I mean, the only French part about me is the fact that I really like cheese.
Hmm. You also had some interesting commentary on Yellow.
Oh my gosh, yes, Yellow by Coldplay. And I'll be honest, I've seen a lot of people talk about Yellow by Coldplay in because it was just such beautiful usage of the song. So for those of you who may not have noticed it, Yellow by Coldplay, I'm just gonna call it Yellow. Yellow was used as Penelope's walk down the aisle song in the wedding. And I was just like, oh, I think it's such an amazing way for her to reclaim the color because yellow is like the Featherington's color, you know? They use a lot of color symbolism in the wardrobe in Bridgerton, which if you guys see like videos from behind the scenes, the wardrobe people, I forgot their names, but they're so talented and they put so much thought into like the wardrobe, including the set as well. Like they use color everywhere, right? And so yellow is the Featherington's color, and it's something that's kind of taunted Penelope almost because she's always in this bright, almost annoying. Irritatingly annoying is not irritatingly so. Um, color of yellow, but yet she's a wallflower and she's not noticed. You know, like it's like this weird contradictory that I think breeds uh a somewhat hatred to the color yellow and Penelope, where she's like, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be associated with the Featherington family, you know? But I think in this, it's a amazing way to show that like not only will she always be a Featherington as she's like, you know, joining the Bridgerton family, it'll be in this way that's now healed because you see also throughout the season this like healing arc between Portia and Penelope, and then also with the sisters. Oh, they're so cute. But there's some healthy relation now amongst them. And I think yellow being used is just so beautiful. Yeah.
Oh,
It's such a good song.
I did not know the song, so
Did you have you given it a listen?
I should do that after this.
Yes, yes. And then I expect an insert right after this about how you liked it.
After listening to the song, it gives off the vibe of such genuine love. It feels like a hug of appreciation. Next time I'm in my feels, this will be in the queue. I feel like confident is pretty
Oh
self-explanatory.
my god. I think not necessarily like the symbolism of it, but just how it was used. It was just such an epic entrance song for Cressida in that scene. That scene was so perfectly directed. Like I would not change it for the world.
Also, I think I noticed that I think earlier in the season she would wear like a lot of like muted colors.
Or
I
definitely
know
that.
definitely light pink, but like in that scene, if I remember correctly, she wore like a dark pink dress.
I think it was dark red actually. It was like this like fire engine red. Hang on.
Fire engine red.
I think so, wasn't it?
I feel like it was like dark magenta or something.
Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. After
Fire engine red is crazy. Imagine the
pretty sure
dye.
it was like a bright red.
Imagine the dye they'd have to use for that.
No. Yeah, it was bright red.
Huh?
Yes. Oh my god, I'm sending you this photo. I'm texting
We'll
you.
have an insert here because I don't remember correctly.
It was bright red.
That's crazy. It is fire engine red.
It's fire engine
Case in point.
red. Very much so. She definitely transitions into a brighter color, and I think it's very much stepping into her own, wanting to be seen, being like, "Yeah, I did that."
Also, I guess you could say the fire engine red, Girly is angry. Girly is getting what she wants.
Yeah, she's definitely putting up a fight. You
Yeah.
know, it is like the color that seems like alarm of alarms. You know, be like, "I'm here." Like pay attention to me kind of thing, you know. Not the and it's also very interesting because it's not the very like demure, like, please marry me. thing that she seemed to be putting on in later seasons, especially with those dresses. It's more so, I don't care if you marry me, I'm whistle down. Yeah.
I do wonder if Cressida will actually visit Eloise.
I feel like, I mean, because they didn't really leave the season on a good note, you
Yeah.
know? That's the thing. Like they left that pretty unresolved, which is really interesting because I know when Cressida does have like an important role in future plot points, like at least in the books. Again, not a book expert. Disclaimer here, not a book expert. um, but I'm 45% sure that Benedict
45.
no, sorry, 47.8% sure that that Benedict's love interest is supposed to be one of Cressida's maids. And like it's like a very like Cinderella type story where Cressida's a horrible person to the maid. And so, you know, like she needs to escape that. And the way she escapes that is with Benedict. But we know they don't the producers and directors of Bridgerton don't necessarily follow the books. So that might change completely. You know, especially with because I feel like they kind of wrote out Cressida. Like I don't see any way, at least from what they've left us, of how she could come back. You know what I mean? Because she's literally banished.
Low key, maybe she jumped out of the carriage on the way to Wales and like I don't know, maybe she's now like a rogue.
Please, that would be so funny. But like,
No,
oh,
she's a
but that,
rogue and the way that she jumps out, it's on the way for like Francesca's travel party. It's so she has to confront Eloise again. And Eloise is just like, bro, I understand you want freedom. Look, I was messy. We're all messy, but this is not the kind of mess you need to make.
she's like a stowaway. She hitchhikes. She hitchhikes her way to Scotland. Oh my god, that would be crazy. That would be a crazy plot twist, and I would love to see it because I do want to see Cressida again. Like, I wish there was some kind of redemption for her because I feel for her.
If she went down the route of being like someone independent of society, I feel like it would be so iconic for her because as you saw in this season, she was so dependent on other things, whether it be like the whistle down name or her mother.
Very
I
true.
mean,
Or
she
even like
did,
Lord Debling choosing her.
yeah, she did technically take things into her own hands by like the whole bribery thing,
Mm-hmm.
but even then, her freedom was dependent on
On someone
Penelope
paying her. Yeah.
or on the queen to,
Very true.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yeah, I think her freedom was definitely, yeah, contingent. It was definitely contingent on someone else doing something.
big brain word.
Thank you. Thank you. Mm. I looked at a thesaurus before this. I'm joking. I'm joking. I did it.
No, you're just that cool.
I wish. Contingent's one of my only fancy words that I use.
Hmm. I use plethora.
Plethora is such a good word, though. Lady Danbury, Violet, and Mark Sanderson.
Oh my gosh. Look. For the people who are mad that Violet took screen time, shame on you. She is the backbone of the Bridgerton family.
She's
She
so cute. I love
gets to
her.
have love.
She's people can hate on me all they want. Violet is objectively one of the best mentions.
That's undeniable.
She's so like she's messy in the perfect way, you know? Like she's constantly doing things for the benefit of her children, for her friends. She's so loyal, she's so sweet, she's so wise, she's so understanding. I love her.
Yes. I will say, Lady Danbury, I'm usually on her side, but when she was trying to freaking block her brother from getting with Violet, I was mad. I was like, girl, why are you bringing in all of these ladies in the ton and like basically creating a literal wall between them?
It was funny though. Like it was hilarious. Like Lady Danbury knows how to do things in a funny way. That is for sure. But I do feel for her, because I think definitely with like the Queen Charlotte show, you do see a lot of how painful her past was. Like kind of, being sold to a really old man, practically, and being forced to marry him. And so then when you see, or like when you learn that Marcus had a role in her having that fate, and again with like this whole overarching theme of choice, she kind of, or he kind of take, not even kind of, he takes away her choice, and her freedom. And so
Yeah.
in a sense it's like Lady Danbury in return is taking away his choice to go after Violet. um and essentially, like she says in the show, basically take away his happiness because he took away hers. So like I feel for her, but Marcus and Violet are so cute, and I'm just so happy Violet's finding a love again because she just deserves it so much. The whole situation definitely deepened and displayed the love Lady Danbury and Violet have for each other. Like Agatha and Violet are like this
Yes.
because they're just like the whole like scene where they're talking about everything and they address the fact that Lady Danbury had a little thing going on with Violet's dad. I think addressing that all and acknowledging like this is a good man and you're my friend, and we'll get through this in such a wholesome way. And it's so wholesome, it's not something you really get to see in Bridgerton. It's just like such pure love with no weird intentions, just pure platonic love for each other, and I love it so much.
I also do appreciate how Lady Danbury and Marcus did like discuss the whole situation, and Marcus like reflected on his perspective then and his understanding now. I thought that was like so sweet seeing the siblings like able to acknowledge how, I'm pretty sure, how traumatic their upbringing was.
Yeah, definitely. It was another like one of those like really nice healing arcs in this season that you get to see. Um which is again like another very conclusive like yay, they're all happy.
Yeah.
But again, you don't really see in Bridgerton a lot. You don't get to see a lot of like the finality of these arcs. We can talk about Francesca. And this is kind of like a part two to your last.
I should probably address it because, okay. For those of you who have watched the other Francesca video, I'll put it in like whatever the cards. I'll somehow link it to this video. I'm not famous, guys. I'm not famous. So I don't know all the fancy YouTube
Famous
tricks
people say,
yet. Um, but
like it, make her famous.
my Francesca video covered the first half of season 3. So it kind of hasn't caught up to the rest of the events. But I will say the point I made in that video, it still stands. Freaking confirmed by the Bridgerton Instagram account. They called it a quiet love.
They probably watched your video before they came up with that caption.
That's true delusion.
They're probably Sunshine Times said this, and so we need to say.
No, that would be crazy though if someone from Bridgerton watched the video.
It'll happen. Manifest.
Honestly, to the people who are hating on Michaela, stop it. Stop it.
It's so cute.
She is so lovely already.
She's so everything. But like, I think the inclusion of Michaela is very special in the sense that like I personally think that it leaves room for a plot line as strong, if not stronger, fighting words there than the books, because I can't compare the two, the two different, like the show versus the books, because I haven't read the books, but I've heard that the general opinion is that the shows are better than the books, especially when it comes to the men. So I think the inclusion of Michaela allows for some expansion on the already kind of unique love that Francesca experiences in the Bridgerton universe, you know? Yeah.
I was also gonna say, aside from like the LGBTQ plus representation, it kind of shows the difference in romance and sexuality. Because I know that some individuals find it affirming if there's more of a distinction between those parts. Romance being like, oh, I want to be in a relationship with this person, sexuality relating to sexual attraction, not necessarily like a full-on relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be like a really interesting thing because I know that in season three, Francesca and John at their wedding, they exchange a kiss. And for a second, I'm pretty sure Francesca like Loki winced or she was like,
Like,
oh, yeah.
show like a face of disgust.
It could like indicate, even though she wasn't that comfortable in that moment, like she's been comfortable with John in every other
Mm-hmm.
instance, pretty much. Hence why she was pretty insistent on marriage. Actually, no, her insistence on marriage could also be linked to her wanting space from her family.
Yeah. I think the biggest one of the biggest things that played into her love for John was the shared understanding of just wanting peace. And Francesca, throughout the season, you see her struggle with people not understanding what she wants because people
Mhm.
don't necessarily share the same desire for just calm, quiet, chill, you know?
Lord Samadani.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But even with Violet, right, when they have like a bit of a conflict because Violet expects this love to be like fireworks and loud and so out there, you know, and that's not how John and Francesca's love is. And I think part of the reason Francesca loves John is because they can both acknowledge, like, hey, we just want to chillax. And it's this common appreciation between the two. Yeah.
But I also think they're like different enough that the relationship does push them to be their best selves. Because Francesca also says this one line about how she can finally hear herself,
Mm-hmm.
which is just given that she loves music, it's just a whole metaphor for how she feels like she is herself in this relationship. She's able to explore, or as that one Psychology Today article said, push her sense of self with the support of this relationship.
In the Bridgerton household, there's a lot of people. It can just generally be a pretty chaotic place to be in. So Francesca and John having the peace, John gives Francesca the room to be herself. And I think you can see that John really understands what Francesca's needs are as a human being, especially with like the rearranging music and stuff like that. Like these kinds of quiet gestures that show understanding and how he's listening to her and what she has to say. That like Francesca doesn't really find with other people or like other characters in the show.
Also,
Like,
even in the wedding speech, like aside from John, that gesture you could argue is much more bold,
mm-hmm.
but that's just a testament to how much he cares about
Yeah.
this relationship. And the fact that he knew Francesca well enough to be like, I know she doesn't want this to be about herself, so I'll quickly transition to something else. Just
Yeah, I think it's really sweet. And I think it's also very sweet how he knows this is kind of what Violet wants for her is someone who is able to make these loud declarations. Yes, declarations of love. Um, and he's conscious that of the fact that her family is not necessarily the most enthusiastic about the pairing, and so him making an effort to make them like him more because he cares so much about Francesca. I think that's like a really sweet like underlying part of that this second half of the season is him
all
like
love
fighting.
for John Sterling.
Yes, he's such a good character. He's just so cute. He's just a cutie patootie.
Yes.
And then Michaela, I think the difference in already showing the difference in how Francesca sees John and Michaela. Or like it's really interesting because like with Michaela, you can see like she's like, oh my god, oh my god.
That's why I mentioned the thing earlier about like the difference in romance versus sexuality.
But I think something that I find really interesting is that there was a lot of discourse online about how Francesca's instant attraction to Michaela doesn't make sense because in the books it's that John dies and then Francesca and Michael bond in their grief and eventually fall in love, right? It's not something that's as instantaneous as you see in the show. But I think it is interesting to kind of establish that you can find someone attractive and not necessarily love them and then build a bond later. Because I think, again, you see with Francesca that her love is slow, it's quiet, it's subdued. And so even though she's having this quick reaction to Michaela, doesn't necessarily mean her love is going to be the same way.
Yeah.
And then the other online discourse that I know we talked about a lot was the issue people had with the loss of the infertility plot line that's in the books. Um, and you had some good points about that if you wanted to talk about that.
I don't know. I don't know.
If you don't want to,
The plot line, I'm very sure it's so important to women and anyone else who gives birth. But I was just gonna say that Francesca's character, as Meghana pointed out earlier, she loves peace. She loves this sense of like calmness and relaxedness. So I kind of didn't imagine her trying for a child. And I think that there is a way to weave in both the plot line with Michaela and an infertility plot line. You could have Francesca and John maybe try for a child, and Francesca may have to deal with infertility relating to the child of John, and that would just add an extra layer to her grief.
mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And then also like I know we were talking and it was like if she is unable to have children with John and then John passes away, she loses that chance of having children with someone that she loves. And then, because obviously now Michaela is a woman and IVF does not exist in the Bridgerton universe. So they aren't able to have children. And so losing that is, I think, another way of keeping the infertility struggle and adding some layers to it, like a struggle lasagna, if you will. Yeah. But like I think also I know the thing we were talking about was that maybe like it's harder for us to understand the importance and the love of having like this plot line or like the importance of this plot line as is
Yeah.
because we are teenage children who are not necessarily thinking of, having children of their own.
Yeah.
That's not something that weighs on us the same way it would weigh on people who have read the books, who do tend to be an older demographic than us. I feel like a lot of teenagers, people our age who are watching the show, are watching the show and then reading the books rather than people who've already read the books and then are reading or and then reading the show and then watching the show.
Yeah.
So again, it's a very nuanced issue. Um, but I do think that the writers of Bridgerton will find a way to incorporate it because it is a very important topic.
Some people may stumble upon it and it may change their minds.
Mayhaps. But yeah, I think overall Francesca's plot line with Michaela is an amazing way to kind of include some representation. Though I do know that a lot of people wanted Eloise to have the queer plot line because a lot of people don't like book Philip Crane.
No, he's so icky.
Yeah, even in the show, he's not my favorite. So I can definitely see. I mean, they're already having multiple queer plot lines with Francesca and then also Benedict. with like
Mhm.
Benedict at least showing that he's exploring his sexuality. So who's to say that they're gonna stop at Francesca?
Please, Eloise.
I also get to see Eloise like having a thing with Crane and then realizing that she doesn't need a man and then she just lives independently.
Did we cover everything?
We did for the most part.
Thank you for watching, guys.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you want to see more of me, I have my own channel, Meghana's Mobs, where I'll be posting little vlogs from my daily life. I currently have a summer reset video, or at least it'll be out by the time this video is. And it'll be a lot less talking, but a lot of chill vibes, something to maybe encourage you to do something in your own life, or something to have in the background as you go about your day. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like and subscribe, and my channel will be linked down below.